IVM.
This week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast is brought to you by Storytel. Storytel is a great website where you can access ebooks and audiobooks. And for the duration of their sponsorship of our show, each week we will be recommending a new book that one of us has read and we love. So this week we're recommending a book called Ashes to Ashes by a cricket journalist named Gideon Haigh. If you've been following cricket for a while, you've definitely seen or read Gideon Haigh's work. He's a fantastic writer. This book is about the 2013 and 2014 back-to-back Ashes series, the first in England, which England dominated, and the home leg or the return leg in Australia, which Australia dominated. Just an outstanding read, really great, captures the emotion of the series, what the countries were going through, etc. And you can access it on Storytel. If you visit storytel.com/IVM, you get a great discount, which allows you to get a 30-day free trial instead of the normally available 14-day free trial. That's storytel.com/IVM. Check out this book and many others, and enjoy this week's episode.
Hello and welcome to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Show, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. That's right, the points don't matter, just like the toss in an India home series. Ashwin, I'm going to give you credit for that introduction, and today we're going to talk a lot about the India-Bangladesh Test series, both the tests that have happened as well as the pink ball tests that are going to come up. And this week we're going to talk about the IPL auctions and the players that the teams have released so far in this week. A lot of exciting stuff ahead. But first, just want to thank everyone. We recently today found out that we're number one on Spotify India's list of podcasts in sports and recreation. So thank you, everyone. Keep listening, and that's the way we'll grow. Ashwin, let me come to you first on this test match. Before I get into the details, let's talk about the toss. Mominul Haq thought the toss was quite nominal. And that was a pretty good joke, I feel. But tell me, what do you think about the toss? We've got a little bit of flack from Faf. Now we've got a little bit of flack from the Bangladesh captain. And considering he won the toss, was it really called for?
I mean, first, nominal is nominal. Flack from Faf. You're on a roll today, man. Well done. I got to give you credit for that. Maybe you should be hosting every single week because DJ and I are not this funny. Anyway, look, it's fascinating to me. I think there's been multiple discussions about what Mominul actually said and that he's not super comfortable in English, so we're all misinterpreting his words. But there was seemingly a discussion about how the toss went in India's favor, meaning actually, despite the fact that Bangladesh won the toss, they made the wrong decision to bat on a green pitch that aided India's, fantastic seam trio on day one. And that's why they ended up getting out for 150 and losing the match, etc. Honestly, man, I think it's insane. I wish captains were just clear enough saying, hey, we got outplayed by a side that's made their home a fortress. They've won, 11, 12 series in a row now. And it's not just because of coin flips, right? Sometimes it helps you, but I just think it's insane. I think it's one thing to deliberate later, but it's a ridiculous excuse. I don't even know why we're still talking about it.
Yeah, good point. So for everyone out there, the first test started on a Thursday. It got wrapped up in 3 days before Saturday the session could end. India won by an innings and 130 runs. Bangladesh won the toss, as Ashwin said, opted to bat first. They made 150. India then came out and made 493 for 6 declared, and then bowled Bangladesh out 213. DJ, let me come to you first to talk a little bit about the bowling, given India bowled first this time. 3 quality seamers, and we've heard about the 3 quality seamers before, but remember, there was no Bumrah here. So Umesh has stepped up. There was an interview after the match where they were talking to all 3 seamers and they were joking and talking about, is Ishant the senior in the team? But I think the key message that came across to me is all these fast bowlers are really just enjoying each other's success.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And I mean, what a time to be alive for an Indian fan, right? Like, we're out bowling teams in the pace department at home. Who would have thought that would ever happen? And I think some credit needs to go to the curators as well. There was a bouncy, quite pacey, nice pitch with carry through to the keeper. Saha was taking the ball over his head. And I mean, the Bangladeshi batsman had no answer to that quality pace attack. And we saw that Ishant Sharma actually produced an in-cutter to the left-handed batsman later in the game. And it's showing that these guys are not satisfied with what they've done, which was have a record-breaking year last year, right? So they're constantly looking to improve, and great stuff, man. What a time to be alive, as I said.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And Ashwin, you were up late at night, US time, watching the three seamers bowl on the first day. first session. You got very excited when, we spoke about second innings Shami. And Shami is fantastic. He took 3 wickets in the first innings. He took even more, 4 wickets in the second, thus maintaining his record. He's got the best average among Indian fast bowlers in innings 3 and 4 of test matches. Recently, Dale Steyn called him the best in the world right now on current form. That's a pretty big compliment.
Yeah, it really is, right? And I think you can't argue with that. I think you can say, okay, but you've got Rabada, Cummins, kind of Bumrah. There's lots of good players out there, lots of great test quick bowlers. But on current form, you have to agree with Dale Steyn. He's absolutely outstanding. I mean, just stunning. I think he broke into the top 10 this time around, so he's now number 7 on the list. So still behind Bumrah. Pat Cummins is obviously at the top. He hasn't played a test match in a little while, but outstanding. I mean, it's just a pleasure to watch Shami bowl. He's not the tallest bowler. Doesn't run in the fastest, but man, he was hitting 144, 145 some balls, getting beautiful spin. And I think what somebody said, I think it was Varun, basically said he's got the most perfect seam position in the world. And when you watch some of the slow-mo videos, you will see like Ishant and even Umesh, who are top-notch bowlers, that seam wobbles just a little bit. It's different to talk about, by the way, and Jimmy Anderson, Dale Steyn kind of guys use the seam wobbling as a technique. But when you're going for that perfect upright seam, some bowlers tend to see a little bit of wobble. Shami's is just picture perfect. I mean, you can watch it over and over again, and his seam position is just fabulous. So great bowler, having in the form of his life. I mean, really, really happy for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some of his videos on Instagram, and it's just a pleasure to watch him. And, it's almost like I'm waiting for the second innings to just watch Shami bowl because he's absolutely phenomenal. DJ, you mentioned a little bit about the pitch. Tell us, what was it about this pitch that, made the 3 bowlers bowl really well? And actually the spinners, Ashwin and Jadeja, didn't do too well. I think they took a total of 3 or 4 wickets between them. And Jadeja seems to be consistent with the bat now in test match cricket. But in this game, he was wicketless. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, so 2 things there. The pitch itself, I thought it was a good wicket. As I said, there was a bit of bounce, there was carry. It looked like it assisted the seamers to start with. It was a little damp as well. And what was interesting was the lengths that our bowlers bowled. There was a lot of pitched up stuff. They weren't afraid to get driven to try and draw the edge and to bowl people through the gate. So we were hitting the stumps a lot, which meant that we were pitching the ball up further. And obviously that's been a feature of someone like Ishant, how he's improved over the years in that particular department. Shami obviously bowls quite a full length, and so does Umesh. Umesh has adjusted his line more than anything else and has become much more accurate. And Shami obviously has been absolutely spectacular. As you pointed out, Dale Steyn said he's the best bowler in the world. And that's some praise coming from a man like Dale. Coming to the Jadeja question, I don't think they needed him in this game, to be honest. I mean, we did play with 5 full-time bowlers. Jadeja batted higher up in the order. I think he batted 6 in the only innings that we had. And we didn't need the left-arm spin of Jadeja as much as the pace bowlers were doing all the damage anyway. And Ashwin was chipping in with a couple of wickets towards the end and was getting quite a lot of spin. So I don't think there's anything wrong with Jadeja, so to speak. But I think basically other people took the wickets, right? So we didn't need him to kind of run through the Bangladesh batting because it didn't last long enough.
Absolutely. And I thought on this time, on purpose, I would start with the bowling first because the bowling has been fantastic. I think the bowling is what's winning us our test matches. I think Sanjay Manjrekar said this on Twitter, and maybe you guys can confirm if it's true or not, but he said that apparently when Dravid had left the team, India was worried about who's going to replace him and who's going to be the wall. And Manjrekar at that time had said, why focus on number 3 batting? Let's get 3 quality quick seamers. Now, I don't know whether to believe him or not, but if he said that, that's pretty good. Anyway, so talking about the wall, DJ, I'm going to come to you first here. I read a terrible joke today that said, we lost the wall, but we got Agarwal. And I know you are a big fan of Monku. You followed him for a while. He's at a stage now where he's played 8 test matches. He's hit more double centuries than centuries. His average is 71.5 in test match cricket. And he seems to be just having a dream run. I don't like that a lot of people have already come out and started saying, we can compare him to Gavaskar. I believe he on Twitter himself said, guys, it's too soon. Please don't kind of say all this. But what a run Mayank Agarwal is having, DJ.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I mean, he had a great series against South Africa. He's now had a great start to the test series against Bangladesh. And I mean, he had a little bit of luck. He was dropped in the 30s, remember, and he was given out when he was in the 80s, and only to review it with that shocked look on his face. So he, thank God for those 2 reprieve, so to speak. And I mean, he's such a nice young man as well. When you listen to him in his interviews, he's quite unassuming. And I mean, he's had a magnificent run with the bat, but he's still showing that he's very grounded. His first reaction after that 200 was, there have been times where I haven't got runs, so I'm going to respect the game. And when I am in good form, I'm going to try and get as many runs as I can, because he had a very tough time a few years ago, kept getting out in the 20s and 30s. And it's so good that he's kind of managed to get out of that. He smashed the door down in the domestic game, scoring 1,000 runs in a month at one point. And I mean, it's just fantastic. He's one of the success stories of the Indian domestic circuit. And obviously he always had the talent, but to just smash the door down with that number of runs and to do it with that level of humility, it's just great. Because even after that, he's got a sense of humor as well. So you can see that after the 200, he went to the press conference and they asked him, what do you do on a day like this? Do you go back and watch the highlights? He's like, no, I sit and play PUBG instead, which is obviously the video game. So that was great. I don't know whether you guys saw it, but that interview with Virat Kohli, right, where Virat Kohli actually, who got a duck, unfortunately, in that innings that India batted, actually interviewed Mayank straight after that. And I mean, obviously Kohli was egging him forward, and you can see how much the captain's support means to Mayank, where Kohli said, you've got 150, now you need to get 200. And he showed him like two fingers. And then when he got to 200, Mayank showed the dressing room 2. And then Kohli went 3. So, I mean, just fantastic camaraderie. He's got the backing of the team. And I mean, let's just hope he goes from strength to strength. He looks like a really good player, but I wouldn't compare him to a legend of the game like Gavaskar yet. Because, I mean, Gavaskar has over 10,100 runs, 34 test hundreds, batted without a helmet against the West Indians and the Australian bowlers like Lilly and Thompson. Gavaskar's a different class, so let's not put pressure on Mayank yet. But so good to see an Indian opening batsman scoring those runs.
Yeah, and great play on words, DJ. Camaraderie. I thought you were talking about the cameraman when you said he showed 2 fingers, then he showed 3. I thought you were going to say great camera work. But anyway.
Yeah, I haven't got the jokes out like you today. You've come well prepared this week, it looks like.
Okay, let me move to Ashwin. Ashwin, I'm going to ask, this is a game where Rohit and Kohli did not show up. I think they made a combined 6 runs between them. As DJ said, Kohli made a duck. And yet India scored 400 in a single day. I mean, this is, for me, it was just shocking that, without Kohli and Rohit, these guys have stepped up. Of course, Rahane did well, Pujara did well. But, I mean, talk a little bit about batting without these 2 guys, and also a little bit about, where's Pujara gone this home series? I can't remember against South Africa if he had a great or a big score. But without Pujara also scoring, this is truly great for Indian cricket.
Yeah, what I thought was amazing about Pujara really quickly is not just that he scored, but the pace at which he scored, right? He came in at one drop after Rohit got out pretty quickly and just started attacking the spinners. He's an outstanding player of spin bowling. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, to end up at 54 on 72, you both remember this is the guy who all the news was about Kohli saying he doesn't bat with enough intent. He needs to go for more boundaries, focus on his strike rate. All things that are seemingly unimportant in Test cricket felt like they became important. So nice to see Pujara show up. But I think to your original question, I mean, this is what we've been looking for in limited overs, right? We've been looking for a lineup that can perform when Rohit and Kohli fail. And the reality is we probably still haven't found it because we're so reliant on the top 3, Rohit, Kohli, Dhawan in that case. And when they fail, I mean, we were 5 for 3 against New Zealand in the semi. We've been 15 for 3 against Pakistan in the Champions Trophy, etc. When the top few don't perform, you need a lineup that can come good. And so I think a lot of credit actually goes to Ajinkya Rahane as well. He was so consistent in the South Africa series. Honestly, after a point, we thought he may not make it in the side. We just thought there was a lot of bad press about him. Yeah, he just wasn't stepping up the way I think the team needed him to, and coming down at 3 down and constantly making 50 plus scores. He hasn't converted them to the big scores, but that's okay. That's the role he's played. And then I think DJ kind of mentioned it, but having Jadeja at 6 a few years ago, we probably wouldn't have celebrated that, but he's shown up. I mean, we saw the sword celebration he did, and I realized we've seen it quite a bit recently. So kudos. I think it's amazing to see them do well. Hopefully they can continue this form when we travel abroad as well, but really, really good to see.
Absolutely. And talking about the batting, I'm looking at the ICC Test batting rankings right now, and it's quite amazing. We've got, of course, Steve Smith at first place with 937 points. Second is Virat Kohli at 912. So quite a big gap there. But number 4 is Pujara. Number 5 is Rahane. Number 10 is Rohit Sharma, and creeping in into the top 10 is now Mayank Agarwal. So Mayank Agarwal moved 7 spots up. He's now rank 11 and is at 691 points. The person above him, Rohit Sharma, is 701 points. DJ, I don't think we're missing the Murli Vijays of the world at all, right? It's just set now for us, this opening pair after these 2 home series.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. I mean, Rohit and Mayank have set their opening partnership perfectly. Prithvi Shaw, who's made his comeback today, may have to actually wait because he was the incumbent, remember, before his injury on the Australia tour and then his doping ban. But I actually wanted to ask you, maybe, Varun, one question. What did you think of the selection? Did we leave Hanuma Vihari out again? And we're playing 5 bowlers without really playing an all-rounder like Pandya. And is that the way forward in India as well? Because, I mean, Vihari did really well in the West Indies, right? So a little bit harsh on him being left out, or what is the strategy behind all of this?
I think my perspective is both Pandya and Vihari are actually probably not needed in India Test. Now, granted, we've seen them against South Africa, which is not the strongest team in its current state. We've got Bangladesh, we've got West Indies coming up. So I think, it's a bit harsh for me to say, but against the slightly lower-ranked teams, I don't see a place for either Pandya or Vihari in this slide, despite the fact that both of them are superb at what they do, and Vihari, especially overseas, has helped save us a number of times, especially because we've got this tendency in England, South Africa, and Australia to get 2-3 early wickets. So I still think there's a place for him in overseas games, but not in India home games. And similarly for Pandya, actually, with these 3 seamers, including, Umesh or even Bumrah when Bumrah comes back, I personally don't see a place for Pandya. Ashwin, I don't know if you have another view on that.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like we were talking about this a little bit, DJ and I, but there's sometimes when the team's not doing well, then those on the bench get so hyped up and their value gets inflated. And right now when the team's doing well, we're sitting and looking at Shaw and Pandya and Vihari and saying, yeah, we kind of don't need them. So it's tough. I think the big thing is, can Jadeja and Saha consistently be your number 6 and 7? That's really the big question, right? Saha's a decent bat, not the best. Jadeja's a decent bat, not the best. And when inevitably the top order does fail, are you going to regret not having a stronger 6 and 7? But I agree with you for now, based on how the top 5 are batting.
And remember Rishabh Pant as well, because he was playing Test matches a little while ago, so he's on the bench too.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking a little bit about the Test cricket kind of overseas tours that you guys were just talking about, and batting overseas, and in India we seem to be doing well. The World Test Championship is ongoing. The points table looks absurd right now, honestly, as I look at it. India is top with 300 points. They've played 6 matches and won 6 matches. This is a combination of the tour in West Indies, South Africa, and now Bangladesh at home, the last 2 at home. New Zealand is next best with 60 points, Sri Lanka 60, Australia 56, and England 56. Ashwin, do you think anyone's going to catch up with us in the near future, and how is this going to work?
Yeah, I think interesting question. There's been a lot of press about it. Some trolls on Twitter saying, "Oh, look how well India planned their tours." Look, this is how the point system is set up. It's not perfect. We've talked about that at length on our show. But A, India is dominating, right? It's not. There's nobody who's really that close. B, I really think, this will even out over time. In 2020, India has no home tests, if I remember correctly. It's all on the road. And yeah, the series are not going to be that one-sided. And yeah, there's going to be a 5-match series at some point when you realize even a win is only worth 24 points. So this will all even out. Yes, there's probably a little bit of a psychological element of having such a big lead early on that'll force sides like Australia and England maybe to go for big or go for wins when they are in situations they may normally have tried to play out and draw, etc. But we have to wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah, that's right. And DJ, the next test, I'm going to talk about that because that'll hopefully be another India win and India will move to 360 points. But talk us through your excitement level on the pink ball test. I know A lot of advertising is going on around it. I know Ganguly has come out and said that all 3 days, the first 3 days, have been sold out. And I think rightly so, because we're not sure if the test match will go beyond that. But how big is this for Indian cricket and how excited are you?
I'm very excited. I mean, the time zone is much better, of course, for me. So that's my first rather selfish interest, because otherwise matches start at like 5 a.m. in the morning. So I inevitably end up missing the first session. But super excited. It's the dawn of a new era for Test cricket, right? And yes, it's coming against Bangladesh. Yes, we've beaten them very convincingly in the day Test match. Yes, our pace attack looks extremely threatening, and apparently Shami, who's played a day and night local game, and I don't think it was a domestic game. I think he played for his club. Apparently, he was completely unplayable, and the ball was swinging all over the place. So all the feedback we've had is that it's going to favor the bowlers a lot. Not sure about the spinners so much, because obviously Eden Gardens is going to have a lot of dew and all of that stuff. So maybe batting almost becomes easier under lights. But I don't know. I'm really looking forward to this, because it is one of the things that hopefully will save Test cricket from becoming kind of extinct and becoming irrelevant, really, in this day and age of people having fast lives, not having time to dedicate. Eden Gardens, of course, I've always felt as a spiritual home of cricket. It's got a crazy kind of fan following. It used to have 120,000 people in there. So the right place to start, I think, this. But what I'm looking forward to is how players deal with those conditions. And of course, India have extended their stay in Indore, I think, to practice under lights. Although maybe they should have just gone to Eden and seen how the dew affects, etc. But they're taking it very seriously, because they haven't got any experience of playing under lights, clearly, with the pink ball.
Yeah, and I read, interestingly, when Mayank Agarwal was given the Man of the Match award, he said that he's looking forward to it as well, because Rahul Dravid in Bangalore apparently has arranged 3 sessions for day-night training, I would say, with the pink ball. So I think it'll be interesting. I actually didn't think too much about the dew factor. You just mentioned it, and suddenly, our eyes lit up thinking, yeah, that's going to be very interesting. So I think that's going to be a key thing to watch out for. But so the second test starts next week at Eden Gardens, Calcutta. I think with that, we're coming to the end of the first segment of the show. I just wanted to call out 2 interesting stats on Kohli, the captain. Kohli has now is the Indian captain with the most innings win. He's got 10, followed by Dhoni at 9, Azharuddin at 8, and Ganguly at 7. So I think that's a pretty good achievement. And he's still pretty early on, I think, 4 or 5 years as captain? Well, actually not early on, but that's a pretty good stat. In terms of most successful captains overall in tests, just to give everyone some perspective, Kohli has played 52 matches as captain and won 32, which is a win ratio of 61%. Right? Graham Smith has captained the most at 109. His win ratio is 48. Ricky Ponting at 62 is the only one, other one who's very close to Kohli. Steve Waugh, 57 matches, 72%. But to give everyone perspective, Alan Border, who is always known as a great captain, did 93 tests and has a win percentage of only 34. So I think something that we need to be proud about, something that people criticize Kohli a lot and Kohli the captain a lot, but I think the numbers seem to be working in his favor. Right. So with that, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be right back to discuss the IPL auction.
Hey everybody, welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you are not following us on social media, why the hell aren't you? It's about time that you did. We're IVM Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We also got some really great news about Paisa Vaisa. Anupam Gupta, our host, we couldn't be prouder of him. His show has won the award for the best business podcast at the Asia Podcast Summit. Couldn't be happier, couldn't be prouder. Definitely check it out if you haven't heard it. It is an award-winning podcast now officially. I also would like to thank our sponsors this week, Storytel and Intel. Sponsors make this possible, so please support our sponsors, tweet at them, tell them that you're happy that they're sponsoring the podcasting space. We're excited to announce our new show, Storytellers and Story Sellers, hosted by Vineet Kanabar. Every episode, he talks to 2 guests, one from the creative side and one from the business side of the entertainment industry. This week, Vineet is joined by Executive Creative Director of TVF and storyteller Saurabh Khanna, and Chief Strategy Officer OML and story seller Tarun Tripathi. Together, they break down what goes into making a branded web series. Tune into new episodes every Thursday. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by Utsav Memoria. Utsav is the host of our new show and one of my favorites on the network, Postcards from Nowhere. He and Cyrus have a really interesting conversation about Utsav's fandom of Cyrus. Also, they talk a lot about travel and Utsav's recent marriage. 2 of our shows reached their 50th episode this week. On Pulyabazi, Pranay and Saurabh talk to Nidhi Gupta, who researches and teaches behavioral economics. They discuss insights from Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman's classic, Thinking Fast and Slow. And on the 50th episode of Paperback, Rachita and Satyajit talk to the best-selling author Ashwin Sankhi about his perspectives on mythology, history, and writing historical fiction. On the Filter Coffee podcast, Karthik is joined by CEO and Managing Director of Fireworks, Sunil Nair. Sunil shares his insights about Fireworks technology, his time at Alt Balaji, and differentiates advertising for an OTT platform versus television. On Advertising is Dead, Varun is joined by Tess Joseph, a renowned casting director. They talk about her journey in the film industry. On Mr. and Mrs. Binge Watch, Janice and Anirudh discuss the pros and cons of the newly launched Apple TV Plus service and review some flagship shows on the platform. This week on Edges and Sledges, Ashwin, Varun and DJ talk about the first India versus Bangladesh test and IPL transfers. On GBCD, Sunetra and Farhad talk about how they face discrimination as kids for choosing to do things against gender norms. On Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav, who is on Cyrus this week if you have forgotten, talks about witnessing Kerala's famous martial art, Kelari Pattu. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
Welcome back after the break. So we spoke about India versus Bangladesh, the test match, and the next test match to look forward to. But this week, there's been a lot of interesting stuff that's gone on in the world of IPL. A lot of teams have released players, I believe 71 players to be exact. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go through some of the surprises that each of the teams have done. And, just to give everyone a little bit of recap, I believe the auction is being held on December 19th, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a total of almost 208 crores to be spent across these 8 teams. Ashwin and DJ, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come one team at a time and talk through a little bit about surprises and just generally get your views on the squad, right? So I'm going to start with the Chennai Super Kings. Actually, to me, when I looked at this squad, there was almost no surprise. They've released David Willey, they've released Mohit Sharma and Sam Billings. But if you think about it, I'm actually not surprised of any of these. The one thing I am surprised about is that they have retained Ambati Raidu. Ashwin, thoughts on CSK?
Yeah, the first thing I thought was interesting, and you mentioned 3 of the names, but they released Sam Billings, age 28, David Willey, age 27, Scott Kugeline, age 27, Dhruv Shure, age 27, and Chaitanya Bishno, age 25, as well as Mohit, who's 31. So he doesn't quite fit my trend. So is the trend here that they said there's no room for people under 30 at their franchise? I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, you literally have released, you've got Dhoni, Raina, Faf, Ambati, Vijay, Bhaji, Santner. I don't know how old Santner is actually, but Bravo, Jadhav, you've got all these older guys. And so it seems like, anyway, that was their strategy. Look, Chennai's entire reason for being and the reason for success has been consistency, the same core of people. They want to back the same folks over and over and over again. And I think, honestly, it's worked for them before. It'll probably work for them again. So probably the least number of surprises. The one I wasn't sure and I'm still kind of not sure about is Shane Watson. I mean, since the IPL, he's only just played a couple matches. I think it's the T10 he's playing in right now, and he's looked okay, but I'm not sure what role Watson plays for them into 2020 season.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Watson has always kind of been this, I think for the last couple of years, been a little bit of an unsure guy where we've always been debating, should we pick him in fantasy, should he not? He's due. But he has come good. And to be honest, you can't really fault CSK because they're making it to the final almost every year. So even though their team is slightly on the older side, I would say, you've got like a great balance with Dhoni leading. You've got Ngidi, you've got Deepak Chahar, who's coming out to be one of the best T20 bowlers. So, DJ, any quick thoughts on Chennai? Because I know you're a Dhoni fan, that's why I'm going to come to you for this.
Yeah, absolutely love that. Ashwin, I just wanted to point out that Shardul Thakur has been retained by Chennai. So, he hasn't been released.
I made a point not to talk about it. It's a Sunday morning for me. I was trying to spend my weekend happily, and thanks for ruining that.
No, I just thought it was an important point to make for you.
Actually, honestly, for somebody who wants CSK to lose, maybe it's a good thing for me. Maybe I should celebrate it.
Perhaps. Go on, Varun.
Right. So CSK as it stands has got 14.6 crore remaining. Let's move on to the Delhi Capitals. And again, this is big for all 3 of us because we are big fans of them. What has happened with Delhi Capitals is that Trent Bolt has actually moved to the Mumbai Indians. And we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about Mumbai. But they've also released Chris Morris, Colin Ingram, Colin Munro, Hanuma Vihari, which actually I'm not very surprised about, but it was a funny joke that we were sharing on WhatsApp before because it feels like India is getting ready for the Test Championship because they've actually bought Ajinkya Rahane and Ravichandran Ashwin. So it's a bit surprising to me. I'm not sure where this team is heading. The good news for us, though, is that, in the middle of the week, we all got a little bit of a panic we were all in a little bit of a panic that they might be selling Prithvi Shaw for Ajinkya Rahane, but we can now confirm that isn't the case. Ashwin, let me ask you first. Delhi Capitals, quickly, what is your thought?
Yeah, it's a little confusing, right? I think as Delhi fans, we're probably the most excited and closest to this one. So it's a little bit confusing when you think about it. You've now got Shikhar Dhawan and Ajinkya Rahane within your top five. Probably on paper, your three big hitters were Chris Morris, Colin Munro, are all gone. So as I really kind of distill down what happened, how we got here, I think the key was, hey, let's have a top 5 or 6 that are domestic batsman heavy, which they've checked that box. They wanted to have a strong spin lineup. I think with Sandeep Lamit-Chane, you've got Amit Mishra, and now you've obviously brought in Ravi Ashwin. You got a strong spin lineup also with only the one overseas. So I think the two gaps for Delhi really are that big hitting overseas all-rounder and one more quick bowler, at least one more quick bowler to back up Kagiso Rabada. I think a lot of people say on paper it's a strange decision to have let Trent Bolt go. Bolt, I don't think delivered what Delhi had hoped for him. Chris Morris certainly didn't. It's definitely not at 11 crores of value. So I think all in all, feeling kind of cautiously optimistic about it. I think it all depends for Delhi on what happens December 19th. And I think if they walk away with one big overseas quick, whether it's a Mitchell Stark, a Sam Curran, somebody like that, and one big overseas all-rounder, I think I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, and DJ, let me ask you, do you think Rahane is being brought in as an opener, as a number 3, and maybe Iyer 4, Pant 5? Because that's the only logical explanation for me. I don't see Ajinkya being brought in and being made to sit on the bench. And then, like Ashwin said, I think, we need that big hitter at 6 or 7. We need that one quick bowler, and he really believes we're going to go after Stark. But the key thing for me and for all the listeners out there is just remember that teams can actually buy players back. So even if Delhi sees value in a Chris Morris or a Colin Ingram or a Colin Munro, they can bid for them again. It's all just part of a strategy where maybe you're looking to bid for a player at a cheaper price than he's already at. DJ, let me ask you about the batting lineup.
So yeah, Ajinkya is a funny one. I'm not sure where he fits into that top 4-5 batsmen. I mean, we've got such a solid top 4-5 already. You've got Shaw, you've got Dhawan. Dhawan and Rahane kind of play the same role, right? They're going to bat at the same tempo almost. You've got Iyer, you've got Pant, and then maybe he comes in below that, I guess. But are you buying him to bat at 5? I don't know. For me, actually, the bigger question is who the all-rounder is going to be. And I'm really hoping it's someone like Jimmy Neesham, because, I mean, that would be just absolutely amazing. And as Ashwin said, I think we're going to try and go after Stark. We've got a little bit of a purse remaining. We've got 27.8 crores left. Morris hasn't worked out over the years. He's kind of flattered to deceive for years now, and I think it's been pretty disappointing. So I think that all-rounder slot and that quick bowler to pair with Kagiso, I mean, it would make us almost unbeatable if we can get a top-class all-rounder and a top-class fast bowler who stays fit throughout the season.
By the way, just one quick thing. You guys mentioned the top 5, DJ. Do you guys remember that Mayank used to play for Delhi as well, 2014 to 2016? And now he's come good. Now he's in the 11th in the test. But yeah, Mayank Agarwal played for Delhi for 3 years.
But who hasn't played for Delhi? Who's amazing now? Everyone who's played has been amazing.
Yeah, doesn't everyone play much better after they've played for Delhi? AB de Villiers, David Warner, Dilshan. The list is just endless.
That's pretty much it. You're absolutely right. We're just used to this now, I guess.
Right. So next we're going to come to Kings 11 Punjab. And this one is surprising. DJ, I'm going to come to you first here. So Kings 11 Punjab has actually got 42.7 crores remaining, and that's more than what they've spent, which is 42.3 crores. They actually released some interesting names. Andrew Tye, David Millers, Sam Curran and Varun Chakravarti. And DJ, I know you spoke about him earlier this year during the auction. But for me, Ty, Miller have done well for Kings 11 Punjab. Sam Curran is like the upcoming guy. What do you think this is? Do you think this is just a strategy to get them back cheaper, or are they really looking for different players?
So David Miller, I mean, I think he's been there for a long, long time, right? And it's he's been quite successful for them. So it's a bit surprising that they've released him. So maybe there is something to that. They're trying to get them back at a cheaper price. Andrew Tye as well, who's their death bowler. He's picked up loads of wickets with his slower balls and stuff. So a bit odd for them to have released those players. I don't know. Varun Chakravarti probably bowled the most expensive over in IPL history, purely in terms of runs per millions of dollars spent. So I think he went for 26 runs of his only over or something that he bowled in the only game he played last year. So I don't see him being bought back anytime soon. His being picked up was the big news, right, in the last auction. I think he got like something like 8 crores or something. He got a lot of money paid for him. But yeah, I think Ty and Miller will be their targets. And obviously they've got a huge purse kind of left over, as you mentioned. So they'll be hoping nobody else goes for those guys.
Yeah, and Ashwin, their captain, Ashwin, has left. So who's going to be the next captain? Is it very obvious choice of KL Rahul?
It's interesting, right? I think on paper he's probably the most senior, the most guaranteed, but I think the only other person who could fight with him from a leadership standpoint is Karun Nair. Karun has captained Karnataka before. He's sort of a little bit more stable, arguably head on his shoulders. Rahul, as great a T20 cricketer as he is a little bit more volatile. So it's tough. I think it's a tough call. The only other thing that kind of Kumble alluded to is maybe they'll end up buying somebody who's captain material too. So tough to say. I think my money's probably on Rahul first, but Karun Nair a close second in the race, unless they go out of left field and give it to somebody like a Chris Gale.
Manku's in the KXIP, man.
Manku's there, but DJ, do you know KL Rahul is dating Sunil Shetty's daughter, or at least that's the rumor?
No, I didn't know Sunil Shetty had a daughter. Do you know what her name is? Why don't you tell our listeners?
Athiya Shetty, and the rumor is that they're dating. I'm just very excited because this may mean Sunil Shetty shows up at more matches.
And he dances to Sundara,
absolutely. Right.
Or Shehar Ki Ladki.
Yeah, in Punjab, that would be pretty good.
Yeah.
Moving on, KKR. Ashwin, I'm going to come to you first for this one. They've released Carlos Brathwaite, Chris Lynn, which I was very surprised about, Piyush Chawla, which I just can't believe because I'm just too used to seeing Piyush bowl in purple colours. And the last surprising one was Robin Uthappa. Again, what do you think is going on? They've kept Dinesh Karthik, which I was surprised about.
Yeah, Piyush Chawla is the interesting one because remember we had this discussion last year. He's still only 30. We always think of him as probably 38, 39 because he's been around so long, etc. So if you go through that list really quick, Carlos Brathwaite, not a surprise for me. Overrated, I think, a little bit in the format. He's good, and he had a couple of good innings last time around, but probably not worth it. I was disappointed for Uthappa and Chawla as well. I think, honestly, it's more that might be a value thing. Uthappa's value just plummeted in that final innings he played when he just couldn't accelerate at all. And so hopefully he can find his spot in a good franchise. I mean, as much as I like him, I don't think he belongs in Delhi, but I could see him fit anywhere else. And Chris Layton's a surprise. I don't know whether that's their kind of play on. Do we look for somebody similar that's a little cheaper? Do we go out, was it an injury and a scheduling thing? Because if you notice, a lot of Australians have been released by their side. So maybe there's some sort of a scheduling thing they're concerned about. I think with 35 crores left, they're going to be going for some really big guys. So this one will be an interesting squad to watch.
Absolutely. I was just going to say 35 crores. It seems like they've got a pretty good core and they've got, Shubman Gill, Nitish Rana, Sidesh Lad. They've kept the Sunil Narayan, Andre Russell. So they've got a good core. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. But let's move on to the Mumbai Indians. And DJ, I think the big news here is that actually Trent Bolt is moving from Delhi to Mumbai. And it's going to be great to see him bowling in tandem with Bumrah. And, Jayawardene already came out and said it's going to be a world-class pair bowling. But to me, honestly, among the players they've released, I don't see any surprises there. The big names are really Ben Cutting, Evan Lewis, and Yuvraj Singh. And it was quite sad because Yuvraj Singh was excited to get a call up by Mumbai Indians last year, but now they've released him, so he has to go through the whole emotion again in the auction.
Yeah, tough, man. I mean, Yuvi's obviously been a class player for India for a long time, but I didn't see any surprises really with the Mumbai Indians. Obviously, they take this stuff very seriously, as we saw in that documentary where this is... they kind of go through what their team composition, etc., needs to be. But didn't they also release Sidhesh Lad to go to KKR? Because he was the guy, remember in the documentary, was kind of had an offline saying with Mahela, and Mahela was like, you're a backup opener and stuff. So hopefully he gets a better shot at KKR, right, as a batsman. So interesting for me, but no surprises really from the Mumbai Indians, the IPL's most successful franchise, and they've got very little of their purse remaining to spend. So I'm not sure they're going to go out looking for a load of people.
Absolutely. And I think, DJ, you're right. Sidesh Lad has actually moved to KKR, and I think it's great because that allows them to kind of, young talent, we always want them to play. So if they're not finding a place in a team like Mumbai Indians, it's great that they're moving. But yes, Mumbai Indians only has 13 crores remaining, but rightly so. They're winning. They don't need to change. They've got a very set strategy.
Yeah, and the two players that people will be looking to pick up from are clearly Alzari Joseph, who bowled really well last year in the one game before getting injured. I think he picked up 6 wickets there. And Evan Lewis, who was another big hitter. So those will be the teams, those will be the players that the other teams have their eye on that have been released by the moment.
Exactly. Yep, that's right. So we'll move to Rajasthan Royals. Ashwin, I'm going to come to you here. Again, I would say I think the biggest surprise was Rahane moving. Other than that, from the released players list, they've actually let go of Jaydev Unadkat. But guys, I have no doubt that they're going to buy him again because there's something just with Jaydev Unadkat and Rajasthan Royals. So I have no doubt that they're going to buy him again. But their squad actually looks pretty strong with Ben Stokes, Jofra Archer, Joss Butler. They've got Mayank Markande as the leg spinner, Riyan Parag, who we saw early last year, and I believe he's finally turned 18, if I'm not mistaken. Sanju Samson and Steve Smith. So pretty good team. Again, no real surprises for me for the players that have been released.
Yeah, I think the only thing is, if you look at their opening pair, was Rahane and Tripathi for a while, and they're both gone. Rahane to Delhi, Tripathi got released. So I know Butler will probably come up near the top of the order. So I think that's kind of what they need to figure out. Maybe Vora will come at the top of the order. He's been retained as well. So tough to say exactly what their opening combination will be. And so I think that's what they're looking for. Beyond that, like you said, pretty balanced. You got to feel for Stuart Binney. He kind of has fallen out of favor a little bit with the sides for a little bit, but hey, I don't know. He might get picked up. You never know. He's an all-rounder. He's 35, so still got a couple of years left with him.
Yeah, so they've got almost 29 crores left. So again, it'll be interesting to see who they pick up. But I kind of like the Rajasthan team and their setup as it stands. The next one, DJ, Royal Challengers Bangalore. The team with Captain Kohli, but the team who always finishes at the bottom. So what they've done this time is they've let go of Colin de Granholm, Dale Steyn, Klaassen, Stoinis, Coulter-Nile, Hetmeyer, Tim Southey. So they've let go a lot of their foreign players, but they've yet maintained people like AB de Villiers, of course, Moeen Ali, Virat Kohli, Parthiv Patel, Washington Sundar, Chahal. So it's a mixed bag. I feel like it's a decision that they probably had to spend a lot of time and probably over the last couple of years thinking about what to do. But I really hope Royal Challengers Bangalore get their act together this time because they've got 28 crores to spend and they really need to turn around this season.
Yeah, I wonder what they plan to do. Didn't we send them Hetmeyer from Delhi and they've now released him?
No. You're thinking of Rutherford. We said Sherfin Rutherford.
Maybe, I can't remember.
Rutherford, okay. We sent Sherfin Rutherford. They've kept that.
We sent Sherfin Rutherford to Mumbai, actually. Shimron Hetmeyer played for RCB last year.
Okay. So they've it seems like one of those classic Kohli moves, right? Like, let's try and wipe the slate clean and go from there. So there were a few years where they just said, we're going to load up on our batting. Then they said, our batting can't win us everything, so we're going to load up on the bowling. So then they got Saudi, they got Kejrolia, they got Dale Steyn. RCB really, man, it's hard to say what their plan is. And a lot of it depends on what their home ground is and how they deal with traveling abroad. So RCB fans always have a tough time. They're the ones that get trolled the most. But I mean, they've got Captain Kohli, they've got de Villiers, they've got Patel, they've got Umesh, they've got Washington Sundar, Chahal, Dubey. So there's a lot of kind of international players in there. Saini as well. A lot of Indian international players. Siraj has played T20 for India as well. So there is some experience in there. It's just that it's never really come together properly, barring a couple of years. I think they made the final the year that Kohli scored all those 976 runs. But I think it's a case of Kohli trying to wipe the slate clean and starting again with the new coach, Mike Hesson.
Absolutely. I really hope that things turn around for them. And coming to the last team, which is the Sunrisers Hyderabad. Ashwin, again, for me, no real surprises here. They've got 17 crores remaining. They released Deepak Hooda, Martin Guptill, Shakib Al Hasan, Yusuf Pathan. Those are the big names they released. Shakib, I think, obvious. Yusuf hasn't done much. And I think Guptill, unfortunately, has just never really clicked in the IPL, although he's such an explosive batsman.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a disappointing day to say this, but happy birthday, Yusuf Pathan. It's his birthday today, November 17th, at the day of recording this. But not great news to get the day before your birthday, but I think sort of inevitable. He expected it. He will probably get picked up by a franchise who plays him as a backup. And I think you're spot on Guptill. I think he might honestly do well in any of the other sides. And if you think about a Rajasthan who's looking for another top order batsman, maybe they'll look to buy him or something. But when you have Warner, Williamson and Bairstow as three overseas best in the world right now kind of top order batsmen, there's no space for Guptill. So I'm pretty confident somebody will pick him up. But I feel like Hyderabad must be feeling pretty confident about their side, both the top order bowling and the kind of top order batting and the core bowling. They'll probably look to pick up, see if they can get one or two all-rounders to kind of beef up that middle order.
That's right. So with that, we've come to the end of discussing the 8 teams. The auction is on December 19th. I think it's going to be a fantastic auction this time. All teams are going to come to the table hard. And We're going to definitely be talking more about this as we get closer to December 19th. But guys, that's all we've got for you this week. We'll be back next week talking a little more about the pink ball test, India's first day-night test at Eden Gardens. So be sure to get tuned in for that, and we will see everyone next week. Thank you.
Look, up in the internet. It's a meme. No, it's a cat video. No, it's the Geek Fruit Podcast.
That's right. We interrupt this riveting broadcast to tell you about our show, the Geek Fruit Podcast, where Tejas, Dinkar, and I, Jishnu, talk about everything in pop culture, including DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Netflix, and everything in between.
You know how your friends hate it when you ramble about some nerdy crap and you just want somebody to listen to you? Well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about that, but come listen to us ramble and it'll almost be like the real thing. Kind of.
Listen to new episodes of the Geek Fruit Podcast every Monday and the Geek Fruit Bulletin every Thursday on iTunes, Google Podcasts, the IVM app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy listening, you nerds.
Do you wish you were smarter? Well, so do we. But the next best thing?
We could make you sound smarter.
And to help you with this endeavor, we are Simplified, a podcast that attempts to break down the complex world around you with a little knowledge, a lot of poor jokes, and a ton of random trivia.
Episodes out every Monday
On the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.
See ya!